Tired of what he called attacks against his fiscal team, Governor Eddie Calvo showed up to last night's presentation unannounced.
They came here with a presentation, and they weren't allowed to complete the presentation without constant interruption. Can I tell you something? I'm offended. You asked our people to do an oath, and this is not even a hearing. This is not even a round table. This is a presentation.
Do you have a problem that they swore under oath?
No, I have a problem that this is not a formal event. What is this? Is this a round table? No. Is this a press conference? I guess that's what it is. It's a get-together. Is that it?
You asked for a presentation, and you're getting that, Governor.
Governor Calvo defended his $343 million bond proposal, saying the time is right to go after a bond, and with a class action lawsuit looming, he'd rather pay the people than attorney fees. Several questions were raised by the senators from both sides of the aisle.
Is there any other jurisdiction within the United States of America that we know of at this point, or territories, that has stolen the money from their people the way we have?
I am not too sure if there's any.
Do you know of any state governor that decided to retire its entire deficit in 1 year?
I don't think any state has had a deficit as bad. Well, actually, I don't think there's been any state that has owed tax refunds to its people for more than a year.
Even without the military buildup, we would still be able to afford this $343 million bond.
That's correct.
Other questions were asked, like do we have to borrow all at once, or can we do this piecemeal to pay off all past due refunds? Aside from reminding lawmakers of a federal class action lawsuit, GITA Administrator Carl Pangilinan said if they were to spread it out, it would cost more. He added Gov Guam already has an interested buyer.
There's also additional cost in multiple borrowing. I mean, it's not double the cost. Let's say if you cut it in half and did 2 sets of borrowing. I mean, it's not double the cost, but it's you know, it's certainly more than doing it all at once in terms of cost of issuance. The other thing too, you know, we run the risk of you know, potentially a higher interest rate down the road.
And there was the comparison between the big bond and the little bond.
If we paid everything with the $120 million, we take the next 2 years, that's another 50 back, and we remain current. We don't need to borrow the additional $200 million, and we would save $400 million in interest over the next 30 years. And pay that. I mean, that's the way I look at it, from that bigger perspective.
The 120 is not a number that is adequate enough to get us onto the ones that are ready for processing. And I think we were closer to our number, 176 million for individual income taxes.
173.
173.
Yeah.
And then I think if you added corporate and everything else, we're up to 200. What was that? 245. So and again, as we move forward in this progression towards dealing with the deficit and dealing with the tax refunds, I'm here to offer our entire package.
Governor Calvo also briefly discussed his plans for reorganization and downsizing the government, warning that he will take a lot of heat because there's no getting around a reduction in personnel. Senator Respicio, however, would accuse the governor wasn't being completely truthful about letting go of more than 100 unclassified employees, saying most of those employees were from the previous administration. The Democrat senator further called the governor out on why his proposed budget for 2012 called for $11 million in hiring. The governor refuted the allegations, saying the hiring was to comply with the Department of Mental Health's permanent injunction, as well as the need to hire more police officers and firefighters. The governor would fire back that Respicio has been one of his biggest opponents in the last several budget cycles, was taking another personal attack against him, and asked whether he'd be willing to make the tough choices.
Will you endorse the cuts on personnel to keep this government viable?
Well, I mean, maybe things can be done differently, but
see
I wouldn't.
You have not answered the question.
Neither have you. Neither have you,
I've
sir.
made the cuts.
Neither have you.
I have made the cuts,
Senator
Senator.
and Governor, I mean,
You have not answered my question once again.